Tonight, smoky skies and a special air quality statement after wildfire smoke blankets a good portion of Saskatchewan. Also, a call to the Catholic Church to do more from some residential school survivors who say financial support should be moving faster if the church is serious about reconciliation. Plus, Riders quarterback Trevor Harris makes an appearance at practice after taking a rough hit at the end of the season opener.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Tuesday, June 13th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Good evening. It has been a smoky day in parts of Saskatchewan. Winds from the north push smoke from wildfires into southern areas, prompting air quality statements from Environment Canada. The heavy haze presented a high health risk in Buffalo Narrows, Prince Albert and Saskatoon. Pratush Dayal has more.
The smoke from about 24 fires in northern Saskatchewan has drifted south. It lingered in Saskatoon, where the air quality health index continued to be at a high risk till late afternoon. That's especially bad for older people and kids.
I don't think I'm going to go outside and usually play pickleball. I won't do it today unless I go inside somewhere. It is bad, so I'm listening to it, trying to just have to go to the dentist, and now I'm going home and think I'll stay inside for the rest of the day.
Some are experiencing health problems and stocking up on supplies to stay at home.
There is the feeling of just being nauseated all the time, and it's also really affecting my ability to eat, so that pretty sucks.
But not everyone has the option to stay at home.
It does kind of hurt after a while, breathing in all the smoke, but...
The courier driver says it's difficult to breathe and the added heat is giving them a headache.
I just try to duck inside buildings and wait inside the air conditioning for a little bit and try to get away from the smoke every time I can.
The unhoused in the city have to find other routes to avoid the double whammy of smoke and heat.
I'm on the streets, and what I do is just to go by the river and like in a cool place, like in the shade and stuff like that.
Environment Canada says that the air quality is expected to reach a moderate rating tonight, but people are still being asked to be careful. Pratush Dayal, CBC News, Saskatoon.
We're getting a look at hate in Saskatoon by the numbers. The city's new hate crime unit just finished its full first year. Police looked at 208 complaints last year. That is 9 times more than in 2021. Police are putting more resources into possible hate crimes and looking specifically at the element of hate. Investigators say that 46 of the complaints were either suspected or actual hate-related. This led to 10 charges. Danielle Coulin says this charge rate shows that hate is often identified.
22% charge rate of the incidents that were found to be hate-based, 22% resulted in charges, which is a pretty high utilization rate, pretty high charge rate, quite significant in fact.
Coulin says this is about 3 times the charge rate of sexual assault investigations. The report goes to the Board of Police Commissioners this week. A National Catholic Church fund for residential school survivors has raised almost 1/3 of its $30 million goal. But some survivors say things would be moving faster if the church was serious about reconciliation. Jason Warwick explains.
Frank Badger and his wife Barb are residential school survivors, so they wonder why the Catholic Church hasn't been able to raise more money to meet its financial commitments to survivors. They say more than $70 million was spent on Pope Francis's recent visit to Canada. That includes $18 million from the Canadian Catholic Church alone.
You know, well, you're not that important, you know, we'll get there when we get there, they might as well say. And then, but if you don't, you know, if you keep quiet and don't pursue it, then they're going to take their time.
In 2021, CBC News published a series of stories. They raised questions about the Catholic Church's claims that it paid $79 million worth of compensation to survivors. Following the stories, Canada's bishops promised to raise $30 million for survivors over 5 years. That fund currently sits at $9 million. Its board chair is hopeful they'll raise the full amount.
I think we're doing very good. We're very pleased with the amount that's been, I suppose, put into the fund.
But some survivors say things would be moving faster if the church was serious about reconciliation. They say the Canadian Church and the Vatican are worth billions. They say the church should just pay the full amount immediately, given the immense damage they caused.
My first day of residential school, all I heard was negative stuff about Native people. How the Indians scalped the white settlers when they came over. How they killed the women and children.
Board Chair Rosella Kinoshimeg says she knows more needs to be done, but she sees this as a good start. Jason Warwick, CBC News, Saskatoon.
The RCMP says it has opened an investigation into allegations China tried to intimidate Conservative MP Michael Chong and his family. The news broke earlier today at the latest parliamentary committee hearing on the issue. Rafi Boudjikanian has more.
When we were made aware of it, we approached Mr. Chong.
A rare admission from the RCMP to a room of MPs studying foreign interference, confirming an investigation into allegations of intimidation against Conservative MP Michael Chong. In May, the Globe and Mail reported a memo by Canada's spy agency revealed multiple MPs were targeted by China after they spoke out against Beijing's human rights record, and a Chinese diplomat sought information on Chong's family in Hong Kong. That memo is 2 years old. The Mounties only started looking into this case after the newspaper's story last month, prompting yet more questions about how widely CSIS shared its work.
With the amount of information that flows, sometimes it's a decision, does that meet the criminal threshold? When do we engage the RCMP? So I'm not here to judge the service on just one single aspect, but if we can improve the flow of information, for sure, for the better of everyone.
One person who did get the memo, the Prime Minister's national security advisor at the time, but he did not share it.
The report was never intended to spur action by readers, whether around targeting MPs or any of the other examples of foreign interference it lists. It was not a memorandum for action. It was a report for awareness.
Hard to believe for the official opposition, which used question period to again push for a public inquiry into foreign interference.
No public inquiry, no truth, and no responsibility shown by this government.
We continue to look at all options, including a public process.
Despite all the shouting on Parliament Hill, there's been some incremental cooperation too. The Bloc Québécois has met with the Conservatives and has sent the government a list of potential candidates to head a public inquiry. All this as the RCMP says it has opened more than 100 investigations into foreign meddling. Rafi Boudjikanian, CBC News, Ottawa.
The city of Regina wants to collect organic waste from curbside bins by later this summer. While many applaud the idea, others are concerned about the city's plan to make people pay. Nicholas Frew reports.
The city of Regina wants to reduce waste. The executive committee will discuss amending the waste management bylaw on Wednesday. City administration wants the committee to approve two changes. One would allow the city to bring in a residential food and yard waste program. The other would expand and increase the utility fee that residents pay for waste pickup. This engineering professor says the user fee is controversial, but the new waste program is exciting.
I'm very excited. As waste management researcher, I think this is very important for all of us. And I believe, the program should be able to help us to reduce the amount of waste in our landfill, helping us to improve the environmental sustainability of the program.
So soon you would see green bins on the curb too. A city spokesperson says the organic waste program would start July 1st for residents who participated in a previous pilot program. The city would hand out green bins to other residents in August, and citywide service would start September 4th. No one will pay for the service this year, but that would change in 2024 when the city introduces a utility fee to cover all waste collection. The price would vary by bin size. Residents with a 240-liter bin would pay about $193 per year, and those with a 360-liter bin would pay nearly $285 per year. Low-income seniors and people with disabilities can get a rebate, but poverty advocates worry for other low-income residents.
All low-income people are going to be hit by this because it is really a user pay model. It is regressive, and that the best way of paying for these types of programs is to have it across the board where everybody, especially those who can most afford it, are paying more.
City administration wants the executive committee to pass its recommendations to City Council. City Council's next meeting is June 21st. Nicholas Frew, CBC News, Regina.
In the business world, Regina-based grain company Vitara is set to merge with an American company. Bungie has signed a deal to merge with the Canadian grain handling and marketing company. Vitara and Bungie say the deal will create a global agribusiness company that can meet market demands and better serve farmers and customers. The agreement will see Vitara shareholders receiving 65.6 million Bungie shares. That's valued at a total of about $6.2 billion US. Bungie will also assume $9.8 billion US of Vitara debt. Rough Riders starting quarterback Trevor Harris was mostly a spectator at practice today. Harris had a helmet on at practice today, but he watched backup Mason Fine take first-team reps. The Riders starter suffered a hip pointer injury, according to head coach Craig Dickinson. Harris was hit hard on the Riders' final offensive play on Sunday. The team was trying to kill the clock on third down, but Harris took a heavy hit as he let go of the ball. Dickinson says the play call was correct.
We just got to execute it better. It's the right call. I mean, I get hired to try to win games and put guys in good situations, and we just didn't execute it very well. In hindsight, I wish he would have thrown it a little sooner because we weren't going to kill all the clock, but we just got to block it better. We put it in on day 3 last week. Probably should have put it in a little sooner. But we'll play, we'll execute it better, and next time the quarterback won't take the hit.
Dickinson says the trainer recommended Harris be out for practice to allow for extra rest. He says he expects Harris to take first-team reps tomorrow. It will be the last full practice for the team before they host Winnipeg Friday night. Well, what's normally a bright blue sky over the South Saskatchewan River in Saskatoon is looking pretty smoky today. A massive part of the province is under that air quality statement because of wildfire smoke. The wind certainly isn't helping matters either. Look at the flags going on the prairie lily. Wondering when the wind will change and maybe some of the smoke will clear? Ethan will have more in his forecast after the break. Stay with us. The legendary John Lennon was fatally shot more than 40 years ago. But in a unique merger of music and science, his voice has been brought to life to give the Beatles one more potential hit song. Surviving Beatles Sir Paul McCartney credits it to artificial intelligence. Chris Brown explains this magical mystery process.
For a moment this past summer at Glastonbury's famed music festival, it was as if time turned back almost 50 years. Paul McCartney and John Lennon singing a duet, sending shivers through the audience. Thanks to that same artificial intelligence technology developed for Peter Jackson's documentary series Get Back, McCartney told BBC Radio that the Beatles now have one final song to release together.
It was a demo that John had that we worked on, and we've just finished it up. It'll be released this year.
The song is thought to be Now and Then, written in 1978, 2 years before Lennon was shot to death. 2 other Lennon-composed tracks were released by the surviving band members in 1995, but Now and Then was discarded because Lennon's voice track was too poor quality.
We were able to take John's voice and get it pure through this AI.
Get behind me! At the world's most famous crosswalk, outside the London recording studio where the Fab Four made music history, fans were elated.
Wow, I think that's really beautiful because otherwise we wouldn't have heard that demo.
Artificial intelligence is already transforming the music industry, and not always in good ways, depending on who you ask. There are plenty of examples of fakes, as well as tough ethical and legal questions. AI-generated songs with vocals sounding strikingly like Canadian artists Drake and The Weeknd recently went viral before being pulled from streaming platforms for for copyright violations.
Your data should not be used unless you have approved it.
Martin Clancy is a musician, and he chairs a global committee exploring the ethics of AI in the arts. Despite the risks, he wants artists to experiment.
Let's encourage Paul McCartney. Do a whole album, but lead the way, guide us in the way that Sgt. Pepper's inspired so many musicians.
Indeed, in his interview, McCartney says he believes AI's future in music is exciting.
There's a good side to it and then a scary side. And we'll just have to see where that leads.
Chris Brown, CBC News, London.
This weather update is brought to you by Capital GMC Buick Cadillac. Used car savings is on now.
And our weather specialist, Ethan Williams, joins me now. It's even smoky in Regina today.
Yeah, that's right. It's been dropping southward through the province. The worst of it remains north of the Trans-Canada Highway, though, and that's where we're really seeing those air quality statements in place. Places like Saskatoon, Kindersley, even the Yorkton-Melville area, and all the way north, ending for some northeastern sections of the province. And that means that air quality health index, very high. The highest it can go in Saskatoon, Prince Albert, Buffalo Narrows. Those are just the measuring points, but that's really indicative of what we're seeing through all of central and northern Saskatchewan, and really through southern Saskatchewan. We're not seeing it as much, but getting into that moderate rating this afternoon. And it is indeed very hot once again, especially in south and central Saskatchewan. A dry heat, close to 30 degrees still in that part of the province. A little cooler in the Churchill region, and has really cooled off in the far north where we have seen some showers. And we are likely going to be seeing showers in that part of the province again over these next couple of days. Everything, the smoke, the rain, our temperatures, really going to be dependent on this low pressure system and the associated cold front moving in from Alberta over the next couple of days. As this moves northeastward through the night tonight, some heavy pockets of showers in extreme northwestern Saskatchewan, Uranium City down to La Loche, and temperatures likely going to continue to drop in that part of the province. Some embedded thunderstorms possible there as well. As that low moves eastward through tomorrow, this cold front is going to be triggering off some thunderstorms through south and central late tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening. And then a second round on the backside of this low pressure system, a second round of rain through the north, this time extending a bit further southward into areas that really need it. On the backside of this cold front, we're looking at windy conditions and cooler temperatures in south and central. Just how much rain? Well, likely this is going to be overshot a little bit because this is taking into account that there could be some thunderstorms, but a good 10 to 20 millimeters in portions of the province tonight from La Loche through north to Uranium City. These numbers are likely overshot, but a good 20 to 40 millimeters for portions of far northern Saskatchewan as we head into Friday, when that next system kind of moves through Thursday night into Friday morning. And even the Churchill region picking up a good 5 to 10 millimeters. Not a whole lot, but could lessen that fire risk a bit. Here is where we're most concerned about thunderstorm development tomorrow afternoon in south and central and portions of the Churchill region as well. Some strong winds, large hail, torrential rain as that front begins to move through. Now, in terms of the smoke, here is where that low pressure is centered, and the winds are going to be mostly blowing from the south tomorrow. So that's going to be pulling that smoke out of south and central. The north still dealing with that smoke though. But then as that low moves eastward, winds going to shift coming from the west, and that moves smoke pooling in Alberta back into our province for Thursday, Friday. And those winds will be quite significant, gusting upwards of 50, maybe 60 kilometers an hour from the south tomorrow. And then very quickly, the smoke moves back in with those more westerly winds, gusting at about the same rate as we head into Thursday, all thanks to that low pressure system. For Regina, again, we could see the chance of some severe thunderstorms tomorrow, along with some very gusty conditions. Quite a drop off Thursday, Friday, as it remains windy, but then we're back close to 30 degrees with chances of rain here and there. And Saskatoon, a similar picture for you. We're looking at that drop off with windy conditions. Sunshine for the weekend, but possibly some rain next week. That 22, Sam, going to feel like a little bit of a shock to the system.
It is, but that fire map's going to get real green, and I like that.
I like that a lot, too.
All right, thanks, Ethan.
You bet.
We need a phrase this time. That's the category for this puzzle, and it is...
The biggest wheel in prime time is getting set for his final spin. Pat Sajak says the next season of Wheel of Fortune will be his last. He's retiring after 41 years as host, 43 if you count his first 2 seasons before Wheel hit prime time. At 76, Pat Sajak holds the world record for longest serving game show host. His co-host, Vanna White, has been alongside him almost as long. No word on if she's ready to turn her last letter yet. We'll be back after the break. Donald Trump pleaded not guilty today to 37 federal charges tied to the alleged mishandling of classified documents. It marks the first time that a former U.S. president has been charged with federal crimes. Security was tight in Miami as supporters of the former U.S. president gathered near the courthouse. There were also some anti-Trump protesters on hand. Trump's accused of taking thousands of papers containing national security secrets and lying to officials who tried to get them back. Trump contends he did nothing wrong and says the charges are politically motivated. In spite of mounting legal troubles, Trump still leads the field of candidates vying for the 2024 Republican nomination for president. In Ukraine, 11 people are dead and nearly 30 injured after a Russian missile attack destroyed an apartment building. Here's CBC reporter Margaret Evans describing the scene at the site.
Just a short while ago, there were body bags beside the merry-go-round here in this playground.
It happened in the city of Kryvyi Rih in central Ukraine and the hometown of the country's president. Other residential buildings were also hit. Over the last 16 months of this war, Russia has consistently denied targeting civilians. And Ethan's back with one last look at your weather.
Well, off to the gate pretty quickly with our temperatures tomorrow morning again in Regina and the south. Less smoky, though, I think, especially as those southeast winds begin to really pick up around 30 kilometers an hour. But they'll really get going as we head toward the afternoon. Close to 50 kilometers an hour. We're almost at the 30-degree mark by that point. Lots of sunshine, but keep in mind there is a risk of a thunderstorm, and those could become severe as we head through the afternoon. Saskatoon, again, I think your air quality health index, and especially for Saskatoon, Prince Albert, likely improving tomorrow morning. Similar picture, though, gusty, but still sunny and very nice. 30 degrees by the time we hit the afternoon. Very similar conditions, chance of a thunderstorm for you as well. One place that's really nice to go when it's not so smoky is the Avonlea Badlands. Thanks to Tria for sending this in. Hard to believe this is in Saskatchewan, Sam. Always feels like another province or planet.
And not super far from us either.
No, very close.
Saskatchewan. Thanks, Ethan.
You bet.
And before we leave you, from high school grads to university convocations, graduation season is underway. And today, a young Indigenous leader from Saskatchewan received a special honor. Michael Linklater received an honorary degree from Humber College in Ontario. Linklater is from Thunderchild First Nation. He played basketball with Team Canada and continues to coach young basketball players in Saskatoon. He also co-founded the organization Boys with Braids to promote self-esteem among Indigenous boys and men. In his response, Linklater said he's focused on what he can leave behind for his children and grandchildren. Big congratulations from all of us. That is it for us tonight. For news anytime, you can head to cbc.ca/sask or subscribe to our YouTube channel. Ethan will be back with more at 11 up next. Vegas will attempt to win their first ever Stanley Cup on home ice. Enjoy the game.